This is the second video in a series of this flat refurbishment. Today I am going to be fitting this door casing into the kitchen. I'm going to be putting timber mattresses into the walls, squaring these off, putting timber mattresses into the walls so the new plasterboard's got something to fix to. I'm going to be doing this in obviously this room, there's a few in the hallway. I'm also going to be patching all the big holes in the walls. I'm going to be using filler for that, I'm not going to be using skin. So today it's going to be mainly time-lapse videos today. I'm going to be explaining a little bit on the mattresses, which it's self-explanatory really. You simply square the hole off, fix a timber mattress inside the wall so your new plasterboard has got something to fix to. But I can't do any plastering around this door frame until the door frame's in, so I've got something to plaster up to. So like I said, today it's going to be mainly time-lapse. Hopefully I'll get some descriptions in, we'll see how it goes. But I just want to get smashed through it so the walls are prepped for paint, which means if I'm ever worked up, if I'm ever waiting for materials, waiting for kitchen for example, I can start painting in this room. This is all it needs doing in here. In the hallway, that's all it needs doing in there. In the bedroom, that's all it needs doing in there. The kitchen and bathroom's still got loads of work to be done in there, so I'm not going to be doing any prepping in there just yet. So I'll get straight on with it. I'll time-lapse it now, and then later on I'll hopefully get you some descriptions in while I'm doing the mattresses. Right, so timber mattresses. Literally, simply draw a square. I've measured it out so it makes it easy for when I'm cutting plasterboard. So I'm going to cut this out with a Stanley knife. I'm going to fix this timber at the back, which will give me new plasterboard something to fix to. So I'll time-lapse this because it's simply just cutting the plasterboard out, and I'll explain how I fix the timber mattresses and how I fix the plasterboard. So now I've got my square cut out. Literally, any scrap piece of timber, you literally just fasten it at the back there, one at the bottom there, which means when you cut your plasterboard out, the new plasterboard has got something to fix to. Now you've got your wall boarded, you need to scrim these joints. If you don't scrim the joints, the plaster will crack. So literally you need some scrim tape. It's self-adhesive. Make sure it's stuck. that'll prevent these joints from cracking. And what I like to do is on the screw holes, make sure there's some screwing over your screw holes, because especially in this situation where the wall's not 100%, these screw holes could pop. So if you put a bit of screw over them, there's less chance these screw holes popping. This small hole here, you don't really need to cut that out because the thickness of plaster. If I just double scrim that, plaster will go over that and fill that, no problem. So once you've got it scrimmed up, you need to seal the wall. This bare plasterboard doesn't necessarily need sealing because it's designed to have no suction or less suction in it. These areas here where you're going to be feathering in the new plaster will need some kind of sealant. So you can either use PVA glue, you can either use it neat or mix with water. Mixing it with water, it'll go off a lot slower. What I like to use is SBR neat. Now SBR sets a lot quicker than PVA glue. If you use SBR, it is expensive, but the time it can save you on bigger projects, it's worth the money in my opinion. Literally, SBR, give it a check. Forgot to do a few screws there. Personally, I would put your scrim tape on before you seal the wall, because the scrim tape will not stick. See, as I said before, you don't necessarily have to do the plasterboard, but you need to get the sealant into this gap, into the groove, otherwise that's got a chance of cracking in the drying process. Plus, this has been skimmed before, so some of the suction could have been taken out of it with the previous skim. So you're just sealing the area where you're going to be feathering into. Once that's sealed, leave it to set. You'll know when it's set, it's sticky to touch and you'll not get any residue on your fingers. So I'll let that set while I'm going around sealing out the rest of it, and then I'll go over the patch plastering process. Right, now this is exactly what I mean. It's literally took me 10 minutes at most to whiz round, sealing all areas that's going to be skimmed, and literally it's dry. If you can hear that, it's got a really good tackiness to it, so it doesn't only seal the wall, it actually makes it tacky, so the skim's got a better chance of adhering to it. So like I say, I've sealed all the areas that I'm going to be skimming. I'll do a description of this particular area while I'm skimming it, and then I'll stick it on time lapse and go over all the areas that need skimming. So I'm just going to get set up now for mix it plaster. I'll literally show you the consistency that it needs, and you just keep adding the powder or water to get to the right consistency. Right, I mixed my skim up. Literally, consistency is a lot thicker than what it would be if you're doing a big area. I have added a little bit of SPR into it, which helps it go off a little bit faster, which, because I'm only doing small areas, I will be stood about doing now, or well, there's things for me to do, but if you're doing this yourself and you've got no else to do, literally, if you put a little bit of Unibond in it, PVA glue or SBR, it does make it go off faster. If you're not experienced in plastering, or you want to take your time with it, literally just add the water. I am a plasterer by trade, so I want this to go off quicker so I can get on with something else. I can get on with troweling it up, I can get on with polishing it up, and then I can get on with literally prepping rest of walls with filler. So again, I'll just explain literally what you do on this area, and then I'll time lapse it while I whiz around putting out skim on rest of areas. So literally, like I said, don't load too much on your handboard to start with. If you're not confident to get it off, just have a play with it first. It's a skill on its own, literally getting it off at handboard. So once you've mastered that, and then obviously there's another skill getting it on wall. But once you've mastered it getting it off at handboard and actually getting it on the wall, a lot of people are scared of plastering, but that's the hardest bit, actually getting it off of your trowel, off your handboard, onto your trowel, onto the wall. Once you've done that, the actual plastering itself on the wall, a lot of people do too much work to it. You don't need to overwork it. Once it's on the wall, you can take all the lines out and things like that. Once it's going off, don't try and get it perfect for the first time. You'll see when I've got this on wall, it'll look kind of a mess. But as the second coat goes on, and then as you take the lines out of your second coat, it kind of comes together. So you'll see anyway. So I'll literally. I never go down to the skirting board on my first go. So I never go down to the skirting board, literally because it piles up at the bottom, and then once I've got that pile on, I can go down to the skirting board after. So literally just an inch, 2 inch above skirting board, and then go down to the skirting board after. That's how I do it. Some plasterers might do it differently, but that's how I do it. So literally just putting it on wall to start with, getting it on, making sure you're filling all your divots in. Obviously this wall here, this is the original plaster, this is no plaster on. So you've got to be careful of making sure you're not putting too much on this area and enough on this area to fill that void between them. So literally, this time you've actually got it on, it looks like that. So there's less on that area and more on that area, but it's even. Once you've gone up with your trowel, it's even. like I said, you've got lines in it, you'll always have lines in it. I've just spilt it straight down the way. That's we're not concentrating. So you'll always have lines in it to start with. Don't try to set the lines out straight away. You don't need to. If you keep working that and trying to get the lines out, you're going to end up with more lines in it. So literally, just up once, up once, and leave it like that. You have got lines in, like I said, but it don't matter because your second coat, or when it's setting, you'll be able to take them out. So what I'll do, I'll bang it on time lapse now, get round it all, and I'll show you how to polish it up. Right, that's first coat off. Like I said before, don't mess about with it too much. Just put it on. Only thing you need to worry about is not building it up too heavy on this section where you're going to be blending it in to the original wall. If that's on too thick, you're going to struggle to blend it in, and you're going to be, once it's painted, you'll see a big thick line between your new plaster and your old plaster. Obviously this section I'm going to be concentrating on for camera, but when this is painted, I'll obviously show you this section and you'll see that the new skin will blend in seamlessly with the old wall. So again, don't mess about with it too much. These lines are fine. This smudge up here is absolutely fine. It's going to have a second coat on it. You're going to take these lines out once it's pulled in slightly. You take these lines out, go over it with your second coat. Again, don't worry too much about putting your second coat on perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect because again, when it's pulling in, when it's setting slightly, you can go over it with trowel. You'll never get wet plaster 100% smooth straight away. So I've got all areas on that I need. I've got half as much water as I mixed first time for my second coat. So if you mix up enough to do your first coat, mix up exactly half as that, and that'll be perfect for your second coat. So I'll wait probably 10-15 minutes for this to pull in. I'll take my lines out, I'll put my second coat on, and then again it's a waiting game for that to pull in so you can take your lines out your second coat, and then literally I'll just show you how to get it smooth basically. Right, it's been about 15 minutes. All I'm going to do is basically run trowel over it gently. Just run your trowel over it, nice and gently. Exactly the same as when you're putting it on. And it'll not take every line out, but it'll smooth it off enough for your second coat to go on. So again, don't mess about with it too much. You're not polishing it up at this stage, you're just getting it to a point where you can put your second coat on. Concentrate on these areas. Obviously you're going to have a new skim on this, no skim on here. So basically it's kind of angling your trowel, exaggerating, angling your trowel. So this part of your trowel is not on this wall, and basically you're just using that part of your trowel, and all you're doing is that. So all you're doing is making sure that when you put your second coat on, there's not going to be a big thick line of plaster here. When you put your second coat on, you can slightly overlap your second coat, so not all the plaster's in one section. Slightly overlap your second coat, couple of inches on top wall. Then when you're smoothing it off and feathering it in, there's not a big lump of plaster on this area compared to this area, so you'll be able to feather it in nice. So again, I'm going to mix up second coat, half amount of water to the first coat you've mixed. Once you've mixed it up, put the second coat on exactly the same as your first coat. Exactly the same motions. Again, you put in because you're mixing half as much, you're putting half as much on your trowel as what you did your first coat. So make sure you're not putting too much on for your second coat. Your first coat is basically filling everything. Your second coat is to get it uniform all across the wall. And then obviously once you've got it on, you can feather it in later with, well, I'll show you that. So I'll bang it on time lapse again, I'll mix my second coat up, and then show you the troweling up process and then the polishing up process. Right, got my second coat mixed, it's exactly the same consistency as the first coat. So again, I'm just repeating the same process as when I put it on the first coat. So again, don't load your handboard up too much. And again, you're only putting half as much on the wall as what you did the first time. So again, inch front skirting board. Then once you've got an inch front skirting board, you come down to your skirting board. If you look there, I've not gone all the way to the edge, so I didn't build it up on the edge. I've put it a couple of inches away from the edge, and then this one I put a little amount on, and I'll overlap that slightly, putting a bit more pressure on the wall than the actual plaster side. And then again, just repeat the process. Don't mess about it too much. Just get it on and then leave it. These little lines that you can see, all them will come out when you're troweling it up. So again, I'll bang it on time lapse, get on the second coat on, and then I'll go through what you do once you've got all your plaster on. Right, second coat's on. Literally, same as first coat, it's again a waiting game. You've got to let this pull in now. You'll see where it's on the original wall, it'll pull in a lot faster. So what I like to do first is go around with my brush and just wet this edge with brush gently, and that will stop it pulling in quick. It'll help you then to feather it in from your original wall to your plaster. So literally, all I do, all your mixing tackle done with, cleaned up, put away. You just need a brush. Basically, I just brush over it. Not too much on the plaster, more probably 50-50, 50% on wall, 50% on your plaster. So then you don't have to worry then about this feathering in, because this water that you're putting on the brush will literally keep that plaster moist, so when you're feathering it in, it'll go in nice. Literally, that's all it is. So before you're taking your lines out, just get a brush on the edge and then further that line, it'll help you out. All you need for troweling up process, you need your trowel, you need a brush or squirty bottle and an inch brush. Your inch brush or a smaller brush is to go around your edges after. So I'll go grab everything that I need and then I'll explain how to trowel it up. But before I do that, on my first video I mentioned Matt Armstrong. Matt Armstrong, obviously if you haven't checked his channel out, I'll put a link in the description. He basically buys crash damaged cars and rebuilds them, improves them. Basically, check his channel out, and he's the one that inspired me to do my own channel. So I'll drop a link to his channel. He's got probably nearly 3 million subscribers now, so you've probably heard of him anyway. But I just want to do a shout out to Matt because he's the one that inspired me to do my own channel. Right, it's been about 15 minutes since I brushed that edge in. Literally what I'm going to do now is exactly the same as when you took the lines out your first coat. Literally, hardly any pressure, just gently, exactly the same, run it up, overlapping round about 50%, so 50% overlap, 50% overlap, just run it up. Now your section where you're feathering it into your wall, literally, again, an exaggeration, your trowel needs to be like that on an angle. So you put in all the pressure, not much pressure, but more pressure on the wall than the plaster. So if I've got a clean trowel, literally, there's hardly any plaster on this side and more plaster on that side. So when you're running your trowel up, all the pressure is going on the wall, not on this, so you're not scraping it off. Again, 50% on the wall, 50% on your plaster, all the pressure on that side of the wall. And then just run it up again and take your lines out. If you've got any little divots, you can put a bit of plaster in it off your trowel, and then run it up. Literally, that's all it is. And again, leave that at that then, don't overwork it again. If you overwork it, you're going to end up with more lines in it. I've got a couple of divots in here. I'm not going to fill them with this just yet, because all I'll do is make more lines around this area. What I'll do, once it's pulled in slightly more, I'll fill them then. So I'm going to whiz around now to cut lines out, and then I'll check back in and let you know how to polish it up. Right guys, it's been about 15-20 minutes since I took the lines out first again. You're better off leaving it. My fingers are not making any fingerprints in it whatsoever now. Obviously check all sections. This section's a bit thicker than that section's, but you can't leave it too long. So don't put too much pressure on the wetter parts of the wall, but you still need to do some kind of troweling up now. So to do your troweling up, you need either a squirty bottle, like I say, a big brush, an inch brush, and your trowel. So what I like to do first is just brush my edges in. So you've got a nice neat edge to your skirting board or your wall if you're going up to top of a wall. Literally, dab a little bit of water, not a lot. Brush your edge in again. And then you're ready to trowel up. So that little bit of water is going to allow your trowel to slide across the plaster without dragging the plaster. So literally same again. 50% of wall, 50% on your plaster, and across. So what you'll take off a wall is literally the water that you've put on and a little tiny bit of skin. So if you're going up your wall and your trowel's full of plaster, then it's not quite ready to trowel up. So literally, brushing your edge, 50% wall, 50% plaster, and your line should be out. If they're not out, again, leave it again, don't overwork it, come back to it. It's not gonna, with patch plastering anyway, it's not going to set that quick that you're not going to be able to get your lines out. So again, I'll put you on time lapse, I'll go around. What I have done actually, the wall in the kitchen is obviously a different substance to what's, this is plasterboard, that's hard plaster, either browning or bonding. Different backgrounds will give you different suctions and different drying times. The drying time in kitchen is twice faster than this, so I have actually gone out over that already. So bear in mind, different backgrounds give you different drying times. It does need another trowel up, so I'll put it on time lapse and I'll trowel it all up. Now it's time to polish it up. Basically same process of troweling up, but what we're going to be doing now is putting a little bit more pressure on, because you shouldn't be taking much off the wall at all other than the water that you're putting on it. So again, I keep going back to it, but brush your edges in, but this time try and brush it from the wall onto your plaster, because in this part, what we're going to be doing is coming across, and what that'll do, it'll feather the new plaster into the wall. So come across, and again, all you're taking off is the water that you're putting up wall. So what that does, it helps the feathering in to the wall. And again, you're just splashing a bit of water on. Bit more pressure. And again, all you're taking off is the water that you're putting on. There shouldn't be no plaster coming off at all when you're polishing up. Just the water that you're putting off wall. So we're brushing from the wall to the new plaster. And then all it is the water that you've put on the wall. And splash it. Be careful, we're electrics obviously. And try to avoid starting in the middle of your plaster. Always start your trowel either on the edge and finish on an edge, or at the bottom and finish on an edge, or from the top and finish on an edge. If you're starting in the centre, what you might end up with is lines like that. So you want to avoid that. And start at an edge and finish at an edge. So that's more or less polished up. I'll just take you through the flat to show you what it looks like now on end of day 2. You've obviously, if you watched the first video, seen what it looked like before, so hopefully it's a big change. So that didn't necessarily need plastering along here, because we're having wall boarding, like an upstand across. which is going to be underneath the wall unit, so that didn't necessarily need plastering, but I just like to smooth it off just to make sure it's the wall boarding is going to go on. That's where the oven space is going to be, so there's going to be a unit that side, a unit that side, and oven in centre, so that needed plastering just so it's nice and neat behind the oven. I patched up above there, which you obviously didn't see, but that's all patched up. In the hallway, it's all patched up, and in the bedroom, that's all patched up, which kind of looks like a droopy penis.